Happy Hour Live with Midtown Video and your host, Jesse Miller. It's Friday night, it's 4:45, it's time to crack open your favorite adult beverage and talk about audio, video, and this episode, podcasting. Cheers, thank you all for joining us. I hope you brought your own adult beverage. It's tough to deliver them digitally. Man, that really helps the 4K go down smooth. Today's episode is going to be awesome. We're going to talk about what a podcast is, how to get one, how to watch one, where they come from. But then we're going to get into the meat of the show, my favorite part, where I get to walk you through a couple of my favorite pieces of equipment. If you want to get started podcasting on a very small budget, if you want to impress your friends and make your enemies drool with envy by starting a podcast on a very big budget, either way we can help. And all of the items we're going to discuss tonight are featured on Midtown Video's store, midtownvideo.com/shop. You can find it from our website, midtownvideo.com, or just give us a call and we'll help outfit you with all this stuff. All this stuff. Did my title roll? I don't know. My TD, Alex Girola, isn't here today, and he built me a little macro just to make sure everything would go right. So there's my title. I guess Mark, our stand-in TD, confirmed that yes, indeed, the title did run. Well, now it ran twice. So, to begin with, what the heck is a podcast? Welcome, Chris Santiago. We're so glad to have you in the audience. And Sarah Diamond, thank you guys for watching. As I said, what the heck is a podcast? Well, believe it or not, podcasts might be older than some of you in my audience. What do I mean by that? This is an iPod. The original iPod, before the iPhone, before phones even had audio on them, this thing is how people would listen to podcasts. Not only did Apple, stop the illegal transfer of MP3 audio, they also created a market for free audio where people are, or paid, whatever, you can subscribe to a podcast and pay for it. The point is, like an MP3 file, a podcast was initially distributed on iPods. Hence the name podcast. Now, really, there are only two things necessary to make a podcast. Number one is the content, you gotta have some episodes, and number two is an RSS feed. An RSS feed. An RSS feed is a real simple syndication feed. That's not the one. This is the one. Podcast requirements. The only thing you need, well, a podcast account, sure, but an RSS feed with the required tags, and at least one episode of your podcast. Okay? An RSS feed is real simple syndication. What is it? It's a link that describes the content on the page. If you have a web host, if you're putting your content on the internet already, it should be very simple to get an RSS feed that describes your content. And if you go to itunespartner.apple.com, you'll get all of this very interesting verbiage about what needs to be in your RSS feed in the way of tags. But let's look at the at least one episode link, okay? How to create an episode. Look at all the formats that would be accepted. MP4s, MP3s, MOVs, M4Vs, even PDFs. You could have a podcast of PDFs. That's kind of crazy. You can use Apple's tools like GarageBand or Logic Pro to create them. Have you been watching me on the wrong camera? Anyway, as I'm indicating here on my screen is all this information, this camera that we're going to be talking about soon is great for podcasting. This is the Canon Xc15. It's on the Apple store. It's on the Midtown Video store, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. But the reason I like to talk into this camera is because I'm going to show you why. Look at that juicy, sexy PMW F55 with Zeiss Prime lens. It's a 35mm lens on there. I love this camera. But not everybody can afford a $50,000 camera to connect to their podcasting system. So now that we've talked about what a podcast is, let's talk about the gear it takes to get there. Before we move on to the gear that I'd like to discuss, it's always fun to talk about the gear that we have in place. This is a Sony PMW F55. That's my DPA lavalier microphone using a Shure wireless transmitter and receiver. None of those guys sponsored this episode. Thanks for nothing, guys. But some of the people that sent us gear today did sponsor this episode, and we'll call them out. We'll call them out. So, let's start at the very entry-level part of the budget. How can I start podcasting without spending a dime? Well, if you've got a laptop with a camera and a microphone in it, congratulations, you're ready to go. You're ready to make your first podcast and host it on a web server that will give you an RSS feed and follow Apple's rules and regulations and put the tags in your RSS feeds. By the way, if you want this link to itunes.partner.apple.com and how to make it happen, you can send me an email and I'll be happy to provide that link to you. So as we were saying, you're going to get started. You're not going to spend a dime. You're going to make your first podcast episode. You can use the built-in camera and microphone on your laptop. And that's all it takes. You hit record, you talk about something interesting, the people watch, they subscribe to your podcast, you become a big hit, and then you start investing in gear. And the first piece of gear to invest in, I've kind of got it out of focus on my F55 here, but it's a badass piece of equipment. And it looks kind of vintage, but I think that's a trick. They designed it to look vintage, but I assure you it's only a couple years old, or maybe even a year old. This is a USB microphone from my friends at AKG. Let's give you a better look at that here. I'll look at the right camera. All right, so here is the AKG. It's a C44 USB. I call it the Lyra USB microphone. It's got some really cool modes. You could put it in front or front and back if you've got a guest on your podcast. You know, you're talking from one side of the desk, they're talking from the other. It's got pickups on the front and the back. Let's hear what it sounds like. Let's go back to camera one. Camera one, and now let's go to mic 3. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jesse Miller coming to you live from my podcast studio on the grounds of Midtown Video. Now, the Lyra microphone is $150. What's useful about this Lyra microphone, apart from being a great mic, right? Picking up on the front, or if I wanted front and back, or wide stereo and tight stereo, it has a USB connection. Okay, this was designed specifically to connect to your computer. So in addition to podcasting, it's really good for conferencing. Zoom, Teams, you know, these software conferencing codecs. The point being, if you want to just take a step up above the built-in microphone in your laptop, you want to cut out the noise floor. You don't want echoey, like sounding like you're on your built-in microphone in your laptop. Here's how the AKG sounds. Pretty nice. Again, because it's a USB microphone and you're going to be using your computer to record your podcasts, you do not need something like you don't need something like this handy XLR to USB interface, which would be cool for our next two microphones that we're going to talk about. So, yeah, let's go back to camera one here. We remain on the AKG Lyra, or the C144 microphone. It's $150. It sounds really good, and it looks nice on your podcast desk, whether it's out of focus because you got a great lens, or whether it's in focus because perhaps you're on an autofocus camera and everything's in focus, right? So let's skip this microphone, go back to one here. Aha. There are three important elements when you're producing content, right? You need lights, you need a camera, and you need a microphone. So this DPA microphone is the Jesse Miller microphone of choice for Midtown Video's Happy Hour Live. If I was to be an entry-level podcast entrant, I might go with this badass AKG USB microphone. Or I might want a little bit more. I might want this guy. This is the Shure SM7B studio condenser microphone. Nice large diaphragm microphone. Look at the comparison. I mean, size and everything, but this mic is definitely bigger than this mic. And you'll notice I've got it on a boom arm, okay? So podcasting, because it started out on those iPods that didn't have video, they only had audio, the video component to podcasts came later. You could have a totally legit podcast that was audio only. And for this purpose, you need to, it's no problem to have a nice desk mic boom. to get the microphone as close to your mouth as possible. The closer to your mouth, the better the sound. It does help to put, what are these? I don't know, $399, $400 for a SM4B. Let's take a look at the shop here. And here's a Gator Cases Deluxe Frameworks desktop mic boom with a with a desktop clamp, and they also come with a built-in XLR cable that makes it really useful to connect your microphones to your computer, your camera, whatever it is. But let's take a look at that Shure SM7B and see that it's $399, $400. So the difference between the AKG mic and the Shure mic, apart from being $150, is, I think, night and day, all right? This is Jesse Miller coming to you live from the Shure SMB microphone. The couple of nice switches in there, we can, roll off the, essentially add a low-cut filter, do some other interesting things with the bass, and once you've got it into your mixer, you've got a lot of data to deal with, a lot of equalization possible, right? So a real professional's microphone. Again, I like it on a boom arm because, particularly if it's audio only, I want it as close to my mouth as possible. And if we're in a show that's called a podcast, even though there may be a video component, we understand that it comes from the audio only world. So it's acceptable to have, stuff, desktop microphone boom arm in the shot, because they know that you're trying to look, you're trying to sound as good as you can, maybe at the expense of how great you look sometimes. So that's the AKG microphone versus the Shure SM7B. Now, you might have noticed a little bit of a quality hit because this is camera 2. Let's take a look at camera 1. This is camera 1. And let me go full screen on camera 2 here. Okay. Admittedly, we took a quality hit, right? What camera are we using on camera 1? This is the Canon Xc15. Why do I use the Canon Xc15? Well, and at this time, I've got to caution you, all right? I got a lot of access to a lot of gear. If you're going to get started and you've got some gear, get started with the gear you've got. Absolutely. Create an engine, get it running, proof of concept before you get going. That's fine. But when you're ready to invest in gear, take it from me, don't buy a DSLR or a mirrorless camera and expect it to behave like a video camera. DSLRs are great. Mirrorless cameras are great for, short shooting. Sure, you could trick it into shooting for an hour, but they're just not designed to carry on long video. Case in point, there's no DC cable to plug it into a wall. You are a slave to the battery of the camera. But Jesse, you might say, what if I want a nice Super 35mm sensor or APS-C sensor or even a full frame sensor? Luckily, our friends at Canon, Sony, Panasonic, the people who make legitimate video cameras, have closed the gap. They filled that need to have badass cameras, right, that are built to be video cameras that have long format recording and operation. So one of my favorite entrants in that marketplace, this is the crossover between the still photography and the videography world, is the Canon Xc15. Let's put one of those up on the screen for you. The Canon Xc15 is built, obviously it's using Canon's world-famous Mavic sensor. Mavic, Digic, I don't know what sensor it has. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's $2,200. This little camera could break down very small. The version of the camera that I'm using, actually, well, every one of these models comes with an XLR adapter that you can slide on the top. This photo doesn't show it very well, but I bet we can find one, right? Xc15 with XLR adapter. Hello, that's what it looks like. Oh, B&H! Dude, who went to that website? And why would you when there's such a good alternative here at the midtownvideo.com shop? Listen, we're not trying to win the buy your cameras on the internet war against a juggernaut like B&H. We're just trying to say, hey, we talk about this stuff. We sell this stuff. Why not let you buy it on our website? Anyway, point being, these Canon cameras, for $2,100, they can record in 4K, they can record in HD, but most importantly, they have an HDMI output. They have a DC input. You can power them, you can connect them to a switcher. They were designed to be connected for multi-camera operation and run them for hours at a time. That's a video camera. Could you rig an A7 III to sort of get the job done? Absolutely. And if you've got an A7 III and you want to get started, do it. Do it. But if you're about to make a purchase and you're asking my opinion of, you know, what should I buy to get into the video game, my recommendation would be a video camera, not a still camera, because of the ergonomic challenges and because of the XLR adapter. So this $2,100 camera comes with 2 XLR inputs, and believe it or not, this Shure SM7B microphone on my desktop boom mic stand is running into the XLR input of that Canon Xc15. Pretty dope. How am I getting it into my system? Well, what I would use, oh, am I still on the 2-up? Oh man. What I would use to do it, to get this into my system if I was doing, oh, thank you. Nice work, Mark. Nice work. What I would use to get that Canon into my system if I was doing, let's say, 4K production would be this here, Avio 4K USB grabber. That's a HDMI input. It takes 4K and it will ingest into USB 3.0 directly to your computer for capture, recording, or streaming. Now, in my case, I happen to be not doing that because I'm doing multi-camera operation. So the USB isn't as helpful to me. What do I need? I need NDI. So to get 4K NDI, I'm using this. It's a Bird Dog Flex. Bam. The Bird Dog Flex 4K device. The input turns your HDMI 4K into NDI. The output turns your NDI into 4K HDMI. Pretty good back and forth. All right, so we've mentioned microphones. We've mentioned cameras. It's time to talk about lights because as you'll see on camera 1, as beautiful as a camera is, if you turn off the lights, it's very difficult to run a show. Very difficult to run a show. What light am I using on this angle? My Sony PMW F55, well, that is the IntelliTech Light Cloth LC100. I've got that on a clamp on my desk, on a thing up here, and then bam, it's got a diffusion box, it's got an egg crate, and it's so thin that if I wanted to, I could tack it to my wall with thumbtacks. In my case, I don't want to do that. I want to angle it at 45 degrees down so that I'm, you know, sort of lit from the angle of you know, desired angle of cinematic lighting, right? That's every time you mess up a word, I think you have to take a drink on this show. Anyhow, 45 degrees down, the angle of cinematic lighting. IntelliTech Light Cloth, $750. I think it's available on the MidtownVideo.com shop. But what if you didn't want to invest $750 in a light? What might you turn to? And so, let's turn that light off once again. Okay, so nothing funny going on from this angle. Let's show you guys camera number 2 and say, hello, camera number 2. What am I lighting you with? And at this point, I'd like to invite our technical director stand-in, Mr. Mark Parsons, to join me in the Dot Studio, aka Jesse's desk. Oh, let's go back. Oh yeah, we're on mic 1. Thank you for doing that. Man, Mark, you're on the ball. You are on the ball. All right. So I want to show our friends at home what happens when you turn off all the lights. I'm coming to you right now on a $200 Wescott ring light. Go ahead and shut that off. Very tough to have a show. Very tough to have a show with no lights. I do have my light cannon, my IntelliTech light cannon, which is a $150 light up on a stand here. But no, let's go back to the Wescott. For $200, this Wescott ring light is a badass light. It's a complete package too. It comes with 2 batteries, it comes with 2 chargers, it comes with a stand. I'm going to go to my 2-up here. And it looks like this. It's a little ring light. That's cool. It comes with a little adapters too, so you could actually mount your camera on that 1/4-20 stud. An Xc15, that might be pushing it, but yeah, you could put the Xc15 on there. What I did in this case, I'm actually going to go to camera 4, Mark. Yeah, so check this out. What I did in this case, let's take that, is, yeah, there's camera 4. Can we zoom in a little? You see the ring light, and I put my camera a little bit on the, behind it, right? I put it on its own tripod behind it. Tell you what, Mark, can you use the Xylight to light up this Xc15? Yeah. All right, all right. And yeah, okay, that'll do. It's messy. It's messy. We should have rehearsed this. Point being, there's my camera. That's the Xc15. You can see me on the viewfinder there. And he's sitting on an FSB6 tripod from Sackler. And right in front of the camera, I put that ring light from Wescott. So that's pretty cool. So go ahead and turn the Xylight off for a second. We're going to go back to camera 2. Hello, camera 2. All right, so this is how I look with the Wescott. Now, that's a $200 light. And what's our dimming percentage there, Mr. Mark? What are we at right now?
It's 44.
We are at 44% brightness. This thing is light. It comes with a bag. It's battery operable. You could do your podcast from anywhere with this light. And it's badass. It's dimmable from 0 to 100%. It's also bi-color, so we can dim between, I don't know, 2,900 and 5,700 degrees Kelvin. That's pretty cool. Right now we're on about a 3,700, you know, to try to match our IntelliTech. But what if you wanted something a little nicer? Are you guys familiar with Xylight? They make some of the best LED Fresnels out there. Gustavo Acosta, HATV, he's a big fan of those. Let's shut down the, yeah, that's it, and turn on the, now that is a light. This also has battery operation, but where the Wescott would be NPF style batteries, the Xylight Cube comes either with V-mount or gold mount batteries. Our buddies at Ushio have bought Xylight, pretty cool. I'm interested in this cube. I haven't had much time with it, but I'm a big fan so far. This one comes in. This one came with a V-mount battery adapter. There's a promotion going on right now. If you buy the light for, I think, $10.99, $1,100, they're going to send you a free battery of the type, you know, that would connect. If they send you a gold mount style cube, you get a gold mount battery. They send you a V-mount cube, V-mount battery. Now, what percentage dim are we here? Maybe 30%?
Yeah, like 20.
Like 20%? Let's blast it. You know what? Damn my eyes. Let's see how bright this sucker goes. Oh my God! Somebody close the iris. Turn down the ISO. Turn the shutter on. Do something. Oh my goodness. Go back to 20. Wow. Yeah. So the Xylight Cube packs a punch. Hey, light panels. We love you guys. I'm using light panels to light up there. Yeah. Better turn some lights on. I'm using the light panels one by one to light up the background back there, but I think this Ushio Xylight Cube is going to give you guys a run for your money. I can't be certain, but it's nice to see competition, is all I'm saying. So let me go back to 2 here, give Mark a chance to escape where you're not on camera. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate that. So let's see. We did the Lyra, the USB microphone. We did the SM7B microphone. I like that SM7B. Let's go back to him for a minute. Yeah, there we are. And we did the Canon Xc15. We did the Wescott light. We did the Ushio. The Xylight Ushio Cube is on the Midtown Video Store as well. Oh, you guys probably want to know what camera 4 is. Camera 4 is a BirdDog P400. This is a 4K PTZ camera. Now, admittedly, the composition here is dirty, but the light, I mean, the camera itself is spectacular. It's full NDI, and it's a PTZ camera, and what is it, $4,000, 39, 30 something, 95? I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of that. And here's that Xc15 again. So once again, Xc15, it's like your mirrorless cameras. It's like your DSLRs. It's super 35mm sensor. It'll take photos. It'll record video, but it'll record video in 4K. And it's got an XLR adapter. Come on, man. You're trying to use professional microphones. You can't use that 3.5mm jack to... I mean, you could. You could. Don't get me wrong. The story drives the podcast, right? The content drives the show. But the cameras make the show too. So give them a little thought. If you're going to be shooting, recording for long periods of time, get a camera that's going to do it right for you. Doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be the right tool. If you're going to connect directly to your computers, if it's going to be HD, you could use an Aja UTAP. If it's going to be 4K, you can use an AV.io 4K USB grabber. All of these devices, of course, are available on the midtownvideo.com/shop webpage. That's what's up. We encourage you to ask questions in the old chat room there. Haven't seen a lot of questions this episode, but that's okay.